Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, July 12th, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the state of Texas and discussing the fact that Joe Biden has officially beaten Donald Trump on the overall polling average on 538. So when we take a look at Texas throughout the entire campaign season, it was close at a certain point in time, but Donald Trump pretty much remained the consistent leader over Joe Biden in this battleground state. Now, I understand it sounds weird discussing Texas as a battleground state. The 38 electoral votes were, safe Republican just 8 years ago. But 4 years ago, the margin narrowed up to single digits. Donald Trump carried the state of Texas by 9 electoral votes, 9 percentage points. And it largely had to do with the fact that Donald Trump, number one, lost not a lot, but a pretty significant portion of that, Republican conservative base that supported Mitt Romney and John McCain, but wasn't too keen on supporting Donald Trump, on top of shifts in demographics across the state that all benefit the Democratic Party. Texas is expected to gain 3 electoral votes following the 2020 census, on top of hundreds of thousands of new immigrant voters that will absolutely vote for the Democratic Party. It's no mystery why immigrants vote for minority voters vote for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party's base typically appeals to mainly minority voters compared to the Republican Party's base, which is typically comprised of white voters. So generally, they will be appeasing those who are reelecting them consistently. So when we take a look at the overall data now, Joe Biden doesn't have an astonishing lead over Donald Trump, nor do I think he will continue to maintain this lead. It's just spectacular for a Democratic candidate to even come close, much less beat a Republican incumbent in the state of Texas based off the data that we have compiled. Joe Biden sure leads by 0.1%. And the race was pretty close throughout the entire campaign season, but I could really not tell you that I would even imagine that Joe Biden could have a lead over Donald Trump in the state of Texas. And this comes as a result of 3 new polls that have been released. Let's go ahead and see. So July 2nd, these are all polls taken in July, so 4 actually. Public policy polling showed Biden ahead by 2%, and then YouGov came out with a poll showing Trump ahead by 4%. University of Texas came out with a Biden plus 5 poll, and then YouGov released another one that shows Trump ahead by 1%. So out of all of these polls that have been released in the month of July, it pretty much overall all benefits Joe Biden. While Donald Trump sure had a lead of 4% in one of the polls, Biden has actually maintained enough to overcome him in the overall average. And the reason why this is so significant is because, no, this was not being said in 2016. I understand there's that infamous clip of Steve Kornacki characterizing Texas as a toss-up race back in mid-October 2016, but there was no real data that indicated Texas would be a toss-up. There was that one fluke poll that showed Trump ahead by 3%, 3 weeks before the election, and Texas became a toss-up on RCP. But realistically, all other data indicated that the race would not even be close. Following, through Election Day, Donald Trump had pretty commanding leads over Hillary Clinton. The last poll taken showed him ahead by 11%. Trump plus 4%. That was the lowest out of all of these. Trump plus 13, plus 11, plus 4 again, plus 9, plus 7, plus 7, plus 10, plus 9. Now, all of the data that we see shows either Biden ahead or a very narrow or tied race. So when Donald Trump leads, we're not seeing him lead by 13%, 11%, nothing similar to what we saw in 2016. While yes, the media may have characterized Texas as a toss-up at one point in time, no data really correlated with that claim. Now, the data absolutely correlates with that. In fact, some of the data shows a Biden victory in this crucial battleground state. And when I say crucial, I mean crucial. These 38 electoral votes could have very well swung the entire presidency back in 2016. Literally. Flip Texas. The Democrats win. They don't need Arizona. They don't need Iowa or Ohio or Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania or Maine's 2nd District or North Carolina or Georgia or Florida. All of those other states could go to the GOP. Texas flips. It's done. Those 38 electoral votes put Joe Biden over the top. So if he's leading here, if Biden is able to lead over Donald Trump in this state leading into Election Day, what's saying the polls aren't wrong? Well, if we take that logic from 2016, let's take a look at where the average was on Election Day. Trump led by 12%. In a 4-way race, it was 12 exact percent, but on a 2-way race, 11.7%. So since we have pretty much a 2-way race this time around, I'm going to use this data. Trump led by 11.7%. The state itself moved in favor of the Democratic Party based off the average to the actual results, in favor of the Democrats by 2.7% based off these numbers, and 3% based off a 4-way race. That means if the polls were as wrong as they were 4 years ago, Biden would not only win, but he would win by 3% in the state of Texas. So I don't think that that exact logic should be applied to this, because it just only solidifies the point that Joe Biden would win the presidency. Because it does seem that in the state of Texas, the Republicans seem to be overestimated in this state. 2008, McCain led by 13% on election day, ended up only winning by 12%. I know that's only a 1% difference, but it is a difference regardless. Same thing, 1% difference in Texas in 2012. Romney led by 16.7% on election day, ended up winning by a 15.8%. That 15.8% margin has narrowed down pretty drastically. Trump only won by 9%. I know that's a very solid victory, but there are some other swing states that actually voted to the right of Texas in 2016, and the trends only continue from there. So while Republicans seem to be overestimated in Texas, it seems that it may be even better news for Joe Biden that he's tying with Donald Trump. Not only is he tying with him, but he's narrowly leading him. And again, like I said, 2018 was the year for Democrats. It's a Democratic wave year in the House of Representatives, but not so much in the Senate. The Senate seemed to have turned to the GOP, with them gaining seats, despite the Democrats winning an 18-point victory in the popular vote in the Senate elections. But looking at Texas realistically shouldn't have been competitive in this Senate race. Beto O'Rourke, sure, was a very inspirational candidate, and he did come up short. I absolutely can see him president in 10 to 20 years from now. Ted Cruz, unfortunately for Republicans, is a very well-known name. He was just as popular as John Cornyn on election day, which means, yes, I don't think John Cornyn will be in for a competitive race in 2020 realistically. Around 14% of Democrats are voting for him in Texas, per recent polling data that is just released that shows Biden ahead, but Cornyn ahead by nearing double digits. But Ted Cruz was very well known. He's a national name. He was the runner-up in the 2016 Republican primary. He decimated Donald Trump in this state. So in the primary. So Ted Cruz should have had an easy pathway to re-election. It was Texas, for crying out loud. It shouldn't have been competitive. But Democrats ran a very hard-fought campaign, and Beto O'Rourke almost won this Senate race. He almost ousted a Republican senator who has been in here. I believe this is now going to be his third term. Ted Cruz, he's a very well-known name. He did very well in fundraising, but so did Beto O'Rourke. And it wasn't just Beto O'Rourke. It was Democrats statewide in Texas. The Democratic Party got 47% of the vote share in this state. Hillary Clinton didn't really come close to that in 2016. Looking at the numbers that we have now, Texas is absolutely narrowing up. I understand it was a Democratic wave year, but all data seems to indicate that the same exact voters that voted by the generic ballot margin in 2018 are expected to vote by the same margin in 2020. In 2016, the generic ballot was within a percentage point between the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a 9-point lead for Democrats in 2020. It was an 8-point lead for them on Election Day in 2018. So, based off that data alone, the House of Representatives is not flipping back by any means. In fact, the Democrats could gain seats. And with that type of energy on the generic ballot, you can almost imagine what type of energy can be brought to the presidential level, with Texas seemingly narrowing up. And in 2016, FiveThirtyEight absolutely did not get Texas wrong. They gave Hillary Clinton a 5% chance at winning Texas. Donald Trump had a 19 and 20 chance at winning the state of Texas, and absolutely, he did win it. There was never really a point in time where Hillary Clinton was even coming close to carrying Texas. No data really indicated that either. Looking at all of the data throughout the entire campaign season, the lowest point in time for Donald Trump was a Trump +3 margin after the adjusted result, down here in August to September 2016. Other than that, Donald Trump pretty much trounced Hillary Clinton in every single poll. And the polls were correct in Texas, just they overestimated Republican support. So they overestimated Republican support, and Donald Trump's approval rating has dwindled. And we're seeing 8% more Democratic voters on the generic ballot than what we saw in 2016. If we're seeing, 7% more support for Joe Biden nationwide compared to what we saw for Hillary Clinton, this race very well could be competitive and has a very real possibility of going to the Democratic Party. The problem with the Clinton campaign as well, they didn't focus on Texas. Number one, Texas wasn't supposed to be competitive. I think it was a shock to a lot of people seeing the media classify that race as gray or yellow, depending on the color they used for a toss-up map. Texas was always the solid Republican state. I compare it to the Republican Party's California. But unfortunately for the GOP, California is moving leftward, and so is Texas. So as Texas becomes more competitive, those 38, soon to be 41 electoral votes will be too close to call. And they will no longer be called at 9 p.m. poll closings for the GOP. They will no longer be solid on Senate races. Candidates like Beto O'Rourke will continue to come out. There won't just be Beto O'Rourke and Joe Biden. A lot of future Democratic Party nominees, Senate nominees, House candidates will do very well in Texas as we go through the next upcoming decades. So Texas is moving to the left. California is also. So where does the GOP turn from here? Obviously, the first look would be the Rust Belt. This is an area that trended red based off 2016 compared to 2012. But realistically, they're losing population. Their voting power will no longer be as heavy. And a lot of those immigrants that are immigrants and minority voters that are moving out of those 3 individual states are moving to other states, growing them in population. Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Arizona, states that are all expected to go to the Democratic Party or at least shift left in the next decade or so, which means, yes, the GOP could turn to the Rust Belt, but that only lasts for about 2 elections. Given the 2020 census, the next election will be 2024, 2028, and then boom, new electoral map. So GOP sure could maybe hold off, but if they don't change something fundamentally about their platform and they stop nominating, candidates like Mitt Romney and John McCain, Texas could very well move back into the Democratic column. Hasn't voted for a Democratic Party candidate since Jimmy Carter, and Joe Biden could be the first. And all data seems to indicate that this race is absolutely competitive. I know it's weird to imagine Texas is close, but nobody would have thought Arizona would have gone blue in 2018. Nobody would have thought Kansas would have gone blue in the governor election. I know those are one-time cases, but this election is a one-time case. There's a lot of things are very different from 2016. Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Please consider subscribing on the left if you haven't already, and check out our Instagram at Let's Talk Elect and our Twitter at LT Elections. There's no extra E in there. Please check out the video on your screen and then a playlist for my 2020 election predictions. You can go ahead and check those throughout the entire campaign season. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later today.